Food security in South Africa remains a big challenge, and poor households are bearing the brunt. In its latest survey, the Human Sciences Research Council says households are struggling with undernutrition, hunger, and even obesity due to inadequate diets. For more on this, I'm joined by the principal investigator of the National Food and Nutrition Security Survey, and that's Professor Thokozani Simelane, who is also the Professor of Practice at the HSRC. A very good afternoon to you, Prof. Thanks very much for your time. This is apparently the first in-depth nationwide study on food and nutrition since 1994.
Good afternoon, viewer, and good afternoon to viewers at home. You are certainly correct. Since 1994, there has never been an in-depth analysis and assessment of the state of food security and nutrition at a household level. This is the first of its kind.
Is there a reason, for that, Prof? Because one would have thought that in a country that's been battling with serious unemployment for quite a while now, and given the challenges people have faced, generally across the length and breadth of our country, this is something, or one of those things, that would have been prioritized to get a sense of the impact of unemployment, poverty, and inequality on the lives of especially the most vulnerable sections of our population.
Certainly, it should have been like that, where the understanding and data and information of how people are actually coping with the realities of food at a household level. But unfortunately, let me take you a little bit back in the sense that when we apply, or we can view this at a systems level, we can say that prior to moving towards democracy or crossing over to democracy, there were quite a number of food systems that were in the country. The homeland food systems, self-governing states food system, and what has been referred to as South Africa food system. Now, after 1994, when the country became a democratic country, I think there was an overlook of the diversity of the food systems which country inherited. And then there was an assumption that, okay, fine, one man's view or perspective is actually applicable to all these systems that have been inherited. I think that was then a big assumption that now is trying to pop up, or that has popped up, that in actual fact, the country should have been providing the monitoring and evaluation of the state of food insecurity at a household level over the past years. However, now at least we have something which makes us to talk about the state of food security at a household level.
So we discover 30 years into democracy that after all, we're facing a deepening malnutrition crisis. What does that mean?
It's a ticking bomb, which is not only linked to what the literature and other researchers have found out, that probably is a cause of income, unemployment, and so on. What we now need to appreciate is the fact that the generation that voted in 1994, as well as the generation that had been the household heads for the past 30 years, is older than anybody else. And the new generation, which probably maybe was being born at that time, has taken over the household. And then the bigger question is, how much awareness, knowledge, and dedication for this generation have to make sure that there is food on the table in their household? This now brings a new perspective or a perception that we need to engage these new household heads in ensuring that they participate in the production of nutritious food in their households.
Now, awareness is one thing, but doing something about it is quite another. And you just started by talking about how what are the sort of things? In other words, if we were to now mobilize these people who first voted back 30 years ago and those who have been in charge of households for the past 30 years? What are we mobilizing them to do and how?
Is to make sure that they take full responsibility of what is happening in households, especially within the era where there are economic constraints that we are facing. I mean, no one can doubt the fact that the high unemployment rate has a huge impact in terms of income, which each and every one of us should have been exposed to actually. And the income, as it stands now, is a sole determinant of food in the household. Now, without an income, what are the alternatives? The easiest alternative is start to engage in the process of producing your own food. I know this may sound easy, but realistically, it's difficult because it means that you need to have an equipment, knowledge, and the space in the form of land where you can produce food that we have. So having said that, I think we need to think out of the box again and look at the possible technologies or technological intervention which we can adopt. That at the end will make sure that there is an improvement in the state of household food security. So it's a program and it's a journey that we will have to walk if really we wish to turn things around. But the main focus should be the current household heads as well as the younger generation that are going to take over when we are no longer here.
But Prof, I mean, if as you say, income is the sole determinant, right? What hope is there then for these households? I mean, if there's no income, then there's no income. What are these things that they can still do?
Yes, Vuyo, you are correct in emphasizing the fact that income has turned up to be the sole determinant, but that also is linked to what I can refer to as the evolution of the food systems. Let's again look back, particularly me and you are people of the same age. We know that our fathers and the grandparents, they were making the best use of land which they have, with less resources that they have. And there was no income because our fathers, some of them would come to work in Johannesburg, and they were scattered all over actually. But those that were at home, they were making sure that they make the best use of available land and the resources that they have. And that was actually linked to the culture because, I mean, culturally, for instance, if you were not keeping keke at home, they will rebuke you. And there were derogatory references that were made to you. And those encourage people to make sure that they contribute to food security at a household level. However, now things change. There's been modernization and the dominance of monoculture and also the dominance of supermarkets as the main sources of food. And this has reduced the enthusiasm or encouragement for people to make use of land that they have. So in the absence of income, as we have emphasized, I think the way I have interacted with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development when we were conducting this study, I have realized that in actual fact in South Africa, there are quite a number of programs which are referred to as the intervention measures, which the department is implementing. And it seems as if there is a gap of awareness between the awareness or the knowledge of these intervention measures and the expectations of the communities at large. So as we have also indicated at the start of this interview, that awareness is something that needs to be promoted at large.
But then, Prof, I mean, what space are we talking about in the context of a 3-4 bedroom township home or RDP house, which hardly has a proper yard to speak of, or even a nkuku in the informal settlements, or I was saying that we are perhaps underestimating or undermining the power even those environments have.
Certainly, or probably I would say so. One may think the way you have formulated the question, but realistically, as I said, there are quite a number of technologies that are in existence. One of them probably hydroponics, which then does not necessarily require land, as well as vertical agriculture, where you find that people use the smaller space they have to produce an abundance of vegetables and other plant varieties, which are used as food. So when I say that there is now a need to emphasize technological intervention, I was referring actually to those kind of methods which can be adopted and make sure that they are being infused into the entire food system of South Africa, because these are being practiced in very much highly industrialized and urbanized areas. So I think it's a time now that we look at those interventions rather than to expect that we might have cash as a way of intervention. Sorry for that, you can go.
And these interventions are inexpensive?
These interventions are inexpensive, actually very much affordable. And I think, and the government is also looking at those possibilities. They are very affordable because they don't require any additional input like energy, etc., so that they can be able to perform. It's just a cold processes that are involved.
Very last question. We've seriously run out of time, Prof. But to a person who may have no appreciation of what this all means, what does this crisis actually mean? In other words, what's a worst case scenario? If the crisis deepens further, you know, what are going to be the results or the impact, you know, of, you know, undernutrition, hidden hunger, and obesity, I mean, due to poor quality diets? Just in summary.
The way I look at it, yes, the way I look at it, I mean, we really don't need to say that the issue of hunger and malnutrition is something that is pending. We are living in that era at the moment. And it's just a matter of how intense this is likely to be, because we are aware that we live in a country where there is a high unemployment, there is a limited access to income, and food prices are escalating on a daily basis because of a variety of factors. Then the issue is, what is it that we need to do as quickly as possible, and what kind of intervention measures that are required, which I think we have made a mention of some of them. And the basic one is to change the attitude and our livelihood to make sure that we contribute and participate in the food production process of the country.
Prof, let me thank you so much for your time. Professor Thokozani Simelane, Professor of Practice at the Human Sciences Research Council, on the back of that very first in-depth nationwide study of food and nutrition since 1994. And the outcomes of this research or study is that South Africa is facing a deepening malnutrition crisis.